What? Hello, you absolute lovelies. Let's talk all about Wonder Man episodes 3 and 4. They dropped all the episodes in one day, but I'm going to be breaking them down right here in 2 episode segments with full spoilers. About an hour worth of stuff because these episodes are dense and there is so much happening. In these 2 episodes, we got the family dynamic of Simon Williams and all the things that shape who he is as an actor and who he is as a person. We got a lot of subterfuge with Trevor Slattery playing for the department and what's going on with this Doorman initiative. And then episode 4, we got this insane bottle episode. Isn't even a fair title, but this bottle episode about Doorman that told his entire story. We get so much context and how that's going to lend itself to the greater MCU and what that means for superheroes in movies, which is something I'm now suddenly very, very invested in, and how keeping himself suppressed is so many different things for Simon Williams because of this act and because of his upbringing and because of the trauma of that incident. We have so much to talk about, so please, if you're new to this page, hit that subscription bell. I cover movies, I cover TV, and I cover comics, so this is very much my jam because this is a show set in the world of movies, set in the world of the MCU, about comics while being quality TV. It is so friggin' special. If you like any of those things and you like this show, subscribe, also like and comment. Let's talk about this show. Let's talk about it right now. The 3rd episode escalated where we already left off with 1 and 2. I feel like these are really good paired episodes because 3, we have now an investment in Simon Williams. We have an investment in this Trevor Slattery who's getting a lot more depth, a lot more detail. I love the skull, which Chekhov's skull, that's going to be important. I feel like that's going to have to get passed at some point beyond where we saw the skull used in Doorman. I feel like we're going to see a passing of the skull between Trevor and Simon. But we get all of that beautiful backstory. We get to hear little details about the character, especially in those first 2 episodes, hearing about, Joey Pants taking his career and all those things. I love the depth we're getting with Trevor Slattery. But then in the 3rd episode, we're seeing the details of Simon's family, and we're seeing that age-old actor thing of like, so what are you really doing? What's your actual job? Which is what happens until you actually make it. People just ask and don't know what your job is. And from that, you feel so much more for Simon, because even if you've never lived in LA, even if you've never done a creative type job that people don't understand until you've already succeeded, there is such a universal appeal to like people not understanding you. There's the universality of like wanting to be accepted and not feeling like you belong that I think is pulling so beautifully from the comics in a different way. And that family scene, we got the ticking clock kind of tension of Trevor Slattery and him snooping around and him just failing at doing anything that's actually of consequence, but little details sleeking through. And then we got that big payoff of so many great family dynamics. And that scene with his mother pouring her heart out, the dialogue was so genius because you get all sorts of backstory that feels like a blend of these MCU and Marvel versions of the character, but so much heart, so much passion, so much love for her son. Beautiful and heartbreaking knowing that he's like kind of spying, but also like how much you care. But then that actual, in the same place that it happened, just the destruction of the kitchen and that impact and the horror and the pain and everything he went through. It's our first real tease of the powers beyond his apartment, the wall breaking and stuff. We actually get to see some power. And this feels like such a great use of like that Hulk tempering and all of that like pressed down rage. And then we get to see the next episode why he's hiding even more than the hiding he did as a kid. There's this Doorman act, and this episode is incredible. It's in black and white, 95% of it, and you see an entire life. You see a man who's comfortable, he's happy, and because of this power that happens at him, he develops into a celebrity, and then the town chews him up and spits him out, and we get all of that, a 13-year journey. I think it is. Maybe it's less. I think 13 years was Trevor Slattery's journey. Anyway, we get this whole journey of this man's like rise and fall, and then the consequences of it that are universe spanning, that are MCU shifting. And the episode itself, like Josh Gad is himself, hilarious. The intrigue of falling into celebrity. This guy didn't want to be an actor, and then this thing happened, and this thing. It's how it happens sometimes, and you get to see a man who is content and happy just dissolve, and the pain in that, and it's in 27 some minutes, and it's so beautifully done, and you care so much of this character you just met. And I think format wise it does this great bottle episode thing, but format wise of the show, not only do we get to show the power of the writing, the power of the directing, and how much we're invested in this new guy that we just met, but I think in the narrative of an 8-episode structure, it gives us an opportunity to see powers that aren't Simon Williams powers. That when we come back in episode 5, then you can have a little bit more power, because right now the show's been so grounded. We haven't seen a lot of, you know, traditional superhero stuff, which I've loved because it's such good writing and it's so captivating. Now we've seen powers in a very different way, but it doesn't have to be the character we've gotten so comfortable with seeing normal. I think that's really smart to break it up, and now we're back. I think we're going to see a bit more of Simon Williams' powers. I'm hoping it stays just as grounded. I hope it stays just as well written, but formatting for a show wise, I thought it was genius. Those three, now this one, very excited to watch 5. But the episode itself, I think I was more impressed by guest stars than I usually am, because you care about his manager, you care about Josh Gad as Josh Gad, but also like the best friend that like isn't doing him wrong, but he's opening him to this world that he doesn't even want. The dude that plays the doorman. Now this is like a C-list kind of character. This is like an arm fall off boy. This is a guy lower than the Spot. This is a very, you know, golden age cheesy character. But even the silly superhero eyes, like they did it. And you're so invested in this man's trials and tribulations, and that is when you know writing is good, because you just meet him and you immediately care about his charm, which is part of his charm in the episode, in his universe. And now we know why Simon Williams can't present this way. That also has shades of Registration Act, which also ties into what the DOD is doing. It's got shades of, obviously, mutants to come. I've said this since Miss Marvel, who is now canonically a mutant. You need the world to hate and fear superheroes in the MCU in order to do a lot of the characters the right way. Since the MCU began, everybody's masks off, everybody's vibing, everybody's hanging out. You need some of that like reluctance and fear. I think this character is a great example because of Josh Gad, who's disappeared. Who do you call when you disappear into a body? There's no one to check in on. So I think it's genius that a celebrity is lost, and now you've got this consequence of it, and in a very intense way. I was thinking the whole episode was going to be the Stanford incident in the comic books, where you have Speedball turn into Penance because he kills all these people in this insane supervillain attack. Lots of people die. Speedball, this fun-loving, fast character, becomes Penance, who is a very tragic figure. It's a new Avengers thing. It's a whole thing, but a lot of people die in Stanford, Connecticut. I thought that's where they were going to go. Instead, it's one person dying, but the ramifications are huge. Dying, who knows? Maybe Josh Gad is just hanging out in a pocket universe, but all of that from one character we just met is genius, and now the consequences to go forward will affect everything. And again, Registration Act, Sokovia Accords notwithstanding, we haven't really seen that to scale, so I think that's going to be cool and important. All this really works for me. Really love all 4 of these episodes. I think this is exactly what Marvel needed, a slow-paced character study, not just action, wham, pow. This is a great example of how action comics are really fun. Pun not intended, but accepted. Action comics being comics that are about action, not Superman's origins. But action-y comics are great, and I love them. I love a splash page. I love that energy, but I also love caring about the characters in a one-shot. I love when Spider-Man gets to be Peter Parker and talk to Uncle Ben for a while. I love the Ultimate Spider-Man stuff where Uncle Ben and Jonah are the most fascinating characters to me. I want the gritty, contained human stuff, so I care about the punchy stuff. Marvel has done a lot of punchy stuff lately. This is very human and real and lived in. I think it's exceptional. So I love that they're kicking off their year. Marvel kicking off their year with Wonder Man. That sense of awe and wonder Simon Williams has for the world, that Simon Williams sees with such wonder, is giving me so many different layers to Wonder Man. And this episode pair really did as well. So killing it. Cannot wait for episode 5. I'm going to go watch that right now. Stay tuned for episodes 5 and 6 as a pair, and then 7 and 8. I wish this was coming out weekly so we could dive in a little deeper, because it's definitely a lot. I just watched 4 episodes and then tried to keep them all track of which one was which, and now I'm going to have to add 2 more to that and keep track. Anyway, I hope you're enjoying these reviews. Please let me know in the comments below if you're digging them. Let me know what you think of the show. It's amongst my favorite Marvel shows, which is saying something. I really hope it sticks the landing, because if it does, man, I gotta look at my ranking system. But let me know in the comments below how you're digging it so far. Like this video and subscribe if you're not already. I appreciate you. I'll see you in like an hour for 5 and 6.